Yeah.
That's all right. Sorry, thanks. Sorry, Paul, but you can do what you need to do. Okay, sorry.
So I'm currently here with Jenny Horwell, producer and programming manager for DocHouse. Now, Jenny, you've been with DocHouse since 2012, but DocHouse was actually founded 12 years ago by Elizabeth Wood. And so for someone who's watching this who perhaps hasn't heard of DocHouse or doesn't know much about what DocHouse does, could you maybe just sort of outline the birth of DocHouse and its ethos or its mission statement?
Yes, and it's probably a history in two parts because, as you say, Elizabeth Wood started DocHouse back in 2002 or 2003, and that was really because back then she felt that you just couldn't see really great international feature-length documentaries on cinema screens, because this is way before Touching the Void, Man on Wire, those kind of breakthrough films that made it into the cinema. So she started kind of as a labour of love to find films, find slots at cinemas, put them together, start to just gradually build audiences, and she built that up over 8 to 10 years, and then in 2011 she teamed up with the Bertha Foundation, and so that's kind of part two of the DocHouse story, because it was at that point that she got to start doing much more screenings, making them much more regular, getting great Q&As, building up much more of an audience for documentaries. But the goal that they were working on, Elizabeth and the Bertha Foundation, was to get a documentary-only cinema screen up and running. So that's the dream, and that's what we've got here at Curzon Bloomsbury with the Bertha DocHouse screen, which is our own 55-seat cinema where we just play documentaries all day, every day. So that's probably the DocHouse story.
And we're currently sitting outside of the Bertha DocHouse screen, as you say, in the Curzon Bloomsbury. And it's so titled Bertha DocHouse because of your ties with the Bertha Foundation. Could you just sort of tell us a small amount about the Bertha Foundation, how they've helped you along the way?
Yeah, they're a really, really fantastic organisation, and they're trying to make the world a better and more just place. And they do that through lots of different initiatives. I think that they believe that you need activists, lawyers and storytellers in order to kind of affect real change in the world. So they fund and work on initiatives, set up initiatives in all of those different arenas. They work funding documentary makers, but they also work with us in order to exhibit documentaries.
And so for you as the programming manager, what has been the effect of having your own premises? I know in the past you've perhaps shown in places like Rich Mix or the ICA, but what has been the effect of having your own premises where you have autonomy?
It's a really, really different experience, and part of that is to do with, without getting too technical about how film exhibition works, part of it's to do with the difference between working like a festival where we work with other cinema partners and working as an exhibitor where we book directly off distributors or directly off filmmakers. And the great thing is we can put together our own seasons, we can decide how many times we want to play a film. We actually get to do this word of mouth thing where people can see a film and then tell other people that it's fantastic and send their friends along, which is something that we were never able to do before. So it gives us much more autonomy. We can show a much wider range of films. We can show films for longer, we can bring films back, we can respond to audiences a lot more. So all of those reasons mean that we can kind of, I suppose, get a lot closer to our audiences and show them the films that they want to see.
And picking up on what you're saying about word of mouth, I know in an interview earlier this year, Elizabeth Wood was talking about, the director was talking about the cinema and described it as a bit of an experiment. How is it, over the 6 months, what has the reaction been to the screen, and how have you sort of coped with publicising films that you don't see big billboards for on the tube and that sort of thing?
It has been a huge learning curve up to this point. So yeah, it was a bit of an experiment. And I suppose the experimenting is finding out how does a film play when it's got a UK distributor and a marketing budget behind it, as opposed to how do we get a film that maybe no one's going to have heard of otherwise because we found it at some festival somewhere. How do we get people to see that? How many times can we play that kind of film? And I suppose the thing that we've discovered is that grouping films together as seasons so that we can market them all in one go really, really helps. targeting our marketing, treating some films kind of with a lot of care and attention and love. So we say, who are the people that really want to hear about this particular film, and then trying to reach out to those people and grab them and bring them into the cinema.
Outside of the Birth DocHouse screens where we're sitting now, you have 3 viewing stations where people can come and interact and watch documentaries without having a ticket for the screen, and online you have an online hub. Do you think that DocHouse is in a way facilitating a change in perspective of how people view documentaries, especially in relation to a traditional feature film?
Well, I think the way that people are viewing documentaries is changing, and if DocHouse and the DocHouse screen can be a part of that, we're all for it. I think the reason that we have, first of all, screens here outside the main screen, we have kind of viewing stations where you can watch docs for free. That's because we want to get as many people watching as many different documentaries as possible, and we don't want, the cost of a ticket to be prohibitive. Not that it necessarily is, because we've got quite reasonable ticket prices. But you mentioned the things that we put on the website, which is whenever we do filmmaker Q&As, we film them and we put them up on the website. And I think that really comes down to Elizabeth Wood's original vision or aim to kind of spread the good word about documentary, because it's incredible that we've got this home here and that we can fill up our 55-seat screen with film watchers. But we're just one screen in London, and we want some kid in Dubai or I don't know, in Sudan, just all around the world to be able to access the kind of, a Q&A that we've done with a brilliant filmmaker. We just want it all to be there, and that kind of hopefully adds to a general literacy in understanding and appreciation of documentary film.
At the Birth DocHouse, you have your Rule Breakers series running until December. Could you just tell us a little bit about the Rule Breakers series and also about your upcoming programme for the months ahead?
I'm really excited about the Rule Breakers series. It's 10 weeks starting on the 29th of September on Tuesday afternoons at 3:45. We're showing a series of 10 films that go chronologically, and they are filmmakers who really broke the form of documentary. They really pushed the boundaries. So we see the development of cinema verite, we see the kind of reaction against cinema verite. We go up to Michael Moore with Roger and Me putting himself as a filmmaker into the film, which was kind of revolutionary at the time. I'm not going to name them all, but all the way up to Leviathan in 2012, which was the really immersive deep sea fishing film, which again, no one had seen exactly a film like that before. And these are the things that kind of push documentary on. They're the exciting developments in it. And each of those will be introduced by Professor Ian Christie from he's a film professor at Birkbeck. So it's a really great programme. And then running alongside that, actually on Thursday afternoons from the 8th of October for 10 weeks, we've got another series which is called Filmmakers' Favourites, and that's based on Sight and Sound did a poll for the 50 greatest documentaries. We're working with Sight and Sound and also Open City Documentary Festival to take 10 films that were more popular with filmmakers than with critics, and to ask those filmmakers to come and introduce those films. So we've got filmmakers like Kevin MacDonald, Penny Walcock, Sophie Fiennes, Andrew Cotting, to name a few, all coming in to present the documentaries that inspired them. So both of those series are running for 10 weeks. Each of them, it's £5 only per ticket, or £4 for a season ticket for the whole lot. So I'd recommend them.
And finally, what can we expect from DocHouse over the next few years? Can we expect maybe another Birth DocHouse screen somewhere else in the UK?
Well, at the moment, 6 months in, we kind of got our hands full with this one. But as we get used to it, as we kind of develop our audience more here, we'd love to be able to reach out and have kind of access to places around the country. So, okay, watch this space.
Best of luck. Jenny Horwell, thank you for your time.
Thanks.